I'm Jane Applegath. This is the Epic Vision Zone where bold ideas meet extraordinary leaders. What if the life you're living isn't the one you were meant for? And what if your greatest setback is your greatest turning point? Randy Martinez is a transformation strategist, author, and former Fortune 500 executive who has helped shape culture and leadership at global powerhouses like Pizza Hut Global and CVS Health. He's led high impact transformation initiatives, guided executives through disruption, and helped build award winning culture strategies at the highest levels of business. But his most important transformation didn't happen in the boardroom. It happened in the quiet moments where identity is rebuilt and purpose is rediscovered. From that journey, Randy created the Art of Transformation and the Stack Shift Coaching Mode, a program created so that no one else has to walk their path without guidance. The Stack Shift is a powerful framework designed to help people rise from adversity, build discipline and consistency, and become the version of themselves that they were always meant to be. Today, through coaching, storytelling, and raw human conversation, Randy helps people reclaim their power, rewrite their direction so that they can step fully and confidently into their authentic identity. Randy is now expanding his impact through a second book titled Adaptive Transformative Cultures and a deeply personal novel inspired by the life-changing journey of his daughter titled When the Flower Dies. As Randy says, transformation isn't just work, it's my purpose. Welcome, Randy. Thank you so much for joining us here today.
Thank you so much, Jane. I appreciate you inviting me to come on and talk to you.
Well, as I was speaking to Randy earlier, we're excited to get story. There's so much to unpack here, and Randy has come from the highest level of business, and now he's stepping into the world of transformation. So let's get started about your journey. Your mission was born out of a moment of loss, reinvention, and rediscovery. What was the exact moment that you realized I have to build this or I'll lose myself?
Yeah, great first question to get into. It, the moment happened in 2024 when I was laid off from a 21-year career in corporate America, and I was 54 years old, and to be 54 and laid off and pouring your entire identity into an organization and a culture and a way of living and an environment that took care of you to a large extent, and suddenly be let go is a very pivotal, defining, scary moment. And that's really the moment that I realized I have to make some serious decisions and start going back into my past and my ups and my downs, my peaks and valleys, and start pulling out some of the tools from my toolbox and figuring out, okay, what am I passionate about? How do I do it? How do I move forward? How do I pivot? What's my transformation? And it was in a moment of scariness, I guess, so.
Yes, it's interesting, Randy, because it's we go along through life and we live in these worlds, our corporate jobs, our,
Yeah.
the jobs that we take on, not necessarily entrepreneurial because you feel more attached and that is your baby, but and then the hammer comes down and it really does get you in the heart because you do get lost in the identity of what you've established in that corporation. It becomes your life. You've grown with it. You've instilled programs that you've seen go into place and change people's lives, and then to
Yeah.
get laid off is just like a knife to the heart. I mean, I've spoken to many individuals who that is their turning point, and you do lose your identity because you've just been immersed in that other identity. So I feel for you. I mean, I've been there. I've spoken to many individuals who've been there. The dark night of the soul is what some call it. But yeah, and it's
Interesting.
a shock. Yeah, it's a
It's a
shock.
total shock. It's a shock to
Yeah.
the system. It's a shock. When that happened, my daughter was a senior in high school. I have a mortgage and I've got this beautiful home on the
Mm,
water. I live in a great town in Rhode Island, and but at the same time, I I remember when, and this is the interesting, that moment, 21 years of a corporate career of working hard. When I look back, I was promoted probably every 2.5 years during those
mm,
21 years to get to where I was. And I put everything, my heart and soul into it. It ended in 6 minutes, literally 6 minutes. And, you get a call, you're, you're on the list of people. Not your fault. Thank you. You did a great job. When we hang up, you're going to get the severance package, bunch of documents for you to sign. Please send them by, whenever. And it ends, and that's it. And what do you do? Right? What do you do in
mm,
that moment? And it can, and I sat there thinking, okay, is it, am I in trauma? Am I in shock? What's going on? Because I didn't react. I actually slept okay that night. But I would say that a few days went by and I'm having dinner with a good friend of mine. I'd say about 5 days later, and she asked me, "What are you going to do? What's the plan? Are you going to start looking for work?" And I said, "Well, I've got a good severance. I'm good for a year, and I've got savings and I've got some investments, and I can at least breathe for a little bit. But I'm someone who's always thinking in the future. I'm thinking ahead, so I was already kind of planning." But I looked at her and I said, I think I think I want to inspire the world. And she just
mm,
looked at me with a bewildered look, and she goes, "What do you mean by that?" And I said, "Well, I've been wanting to write. I've been writing since I was a kid. Did a lot of speaking and at work for different teams, different departments, at conferences, and I think I have a story to tell, and
mm,
I want to tell it." And the chat, she asked me, how are you going to do that? And I thought, how am I going to do that? And the first challenge for me was to be vulnerable. And I've always played the corporate role in my life. I've always been that corporate guy. I've always shown up, like I mentioned to you earlier, right? In a suit and a tie. That's who people knew. That's who they respected. But there was a whole different story behind all that I never shared with anyone until I wrote it in the book.
mm. How fascinating. The door opened. And funny enough that your friend, because she was probably still in corporate, was just dumbfounded by the fact that you say, I want to inspire people. See, that gave me chills. I was just like, wow, that's fantastic. But to her, it was like, what does that mean? It's just because you get that
That's
corporate mindset, and you're just like, huh?
we
What does that mean?
it's amazing, and that reaction and the reaction that I started to get from other people was also eye-opening for me, and I talk a lot about that, about the noise that exists around us, right? The barriers, the naysayers, the people that tell you, you know what, you might want to reconsider. And I've got a good friend of mine who I went to business school with, and she worked for a big law firm in New York City, was in the middle of the 2008 debacle in finance. It was a financial law firm in New York City.
Mm,
And after I was laid off, I saw her showing up a lot on LinkedIn with doing some artwork. And I reached out to her finally. We didn't get along in business school, but I reached out to her and I asked her, "Hey, I've been watching this artwork that you're working on. Tell me what you're doing." And she goes, "Look, I left corporate. I couldn't take it anymore. Uh, I'm broke as can be. I discovered art about 4 years ago, and now I am creating art, and that is my love, my passion." And today, this was 2.5 years ago. Today, she's selling her art and beginning to do very well. And so she's a big inspiration. And so I thought, all right, well, then I need to really follow my passion. But I didn't know how I was going to do it, Jane. I had no idea.
Right.
In that moment, I had no idea I didn't know how to put a podcast together. I didn't know where to start writing. I didn't know a publisher. I didn't know any of that. And
But that's
yeah,
okay. They say don't dwell on the how, because
right.
that will just get you caught up in the details and things won't move forward. It's the fact that you
That's
just
right.
continue to move little step by little step and start taking action. But I love that. That was a great story. And it just goes to show you that there's so much more within us that we don't explore because we follow a path that we expect culture, society, our families expect us, the expectation of your life that has been that has been written for you before you can write your own story. And that's what happens to many of us. But, well, that being said, Randy, how did your darkest experience then become the blueprint for a system others can follow?
So the the book that I wrote, The Art of Transformation, wasn't what I started out writing when I got laid off. I started to write a book on adaptive transformative culture. I took my experiences in corporate. I did a lot of culture work within those organizations, led transformation initiatives, worked on diversity management. And so I took a lot of that and I poured it into this manuscript on culture shaping. And I finished it. I finished it in a few months. It was notes that I had, things that I'd already started writing. It was just a total brain dump. And then I wasn't satisfied with that. And then I finished a project I'd been writing about a good friend of mine who started an organization with $48.50 about 15 years ago. And today it's an $8 million organization that feeds about 150,000 families a year here in New England. A fascinating story that just I had to get involved with that project. So I finished that manuscript. It's sitting with him right now so that he can edit it and we hopefully co-publish it here at some point. And then I had the writing bug, and then I started writing a personal journal, just things about my person, just my life. And what I discovered in that process was that it was taking a lot out of me. It was an emotional roller coaster. I didn't realize how impactful it was to go back and relive a lot of things that had happened to me as a child, and that they were the things that really set the the pace for me, for how I would navigate and live my life and really chase to achieve the highest level in corporate within my function. And so I went back and I did that, and it drained me so much. I had to stop, and I had to ask my family also if I can write about some of the things that happened when we were younger. And that caused a lot of problems in my family at the time. There was a lot of arguing. They didn't want me to publish or talk about some of these things. And so I backed off a little bit to kind of rethink what the workaround would be on this. And then I went back to a lot of self-help books that I was given in corporate for leadership development programs and a lot of the training and development programs that I took. And there were some things that I used during those times to, in my career, that helped me navigate that corporate environment. But as I read back some of those notes and some of those books, I'm like, these things I actually applied these in my personal life. This is how I was able to navigate the difficulties that I went through. So I took some of the bigger initiatives like mindset, how to shift your mindset, confidence. I was never a confident person. I mean, I would walk into congressional rooms because I did a lot of work in Congress in Washington, and I would sweat so bad because I just didn't feel I belonged there. So in the book, I wrote about how to overcome those things, resilience, how to set goals. And next thing I know, I find myself writing The Art of Transformation, because for me, it was not only personal transformation, but it was the transformation I was undergoing right now, from going from corporate to now this new life of navigating a very different experience. And what do I do with it at age 54, 55, 56? And So it was the book is about how I transformed personally through my life, but the transformation that I'm undergoing now. So it's almost in real time.
Mm. Wow, that's really, I know that writing can be a very cathartic exercise. In fact, I would say that it would be an ideal thing for many people, even in corporate, to sit down, have them a day and just say, okay, I just want you to go back and write bit about your life, just so that people can understand themselves again, because we let it go, or we forget, or we don't realize those are the beliefs that we're living still today. But many people rebuild their careers, as I'm sure you know, but there are very few people that understand or know how to rebuild their identity. So, what part of Randy had to die for this project to come alive?
Oh, amazing question. So I wrote from chapter 1 through chapter 13, and that wasn't difficult for me to write. What took the longest for me to write were the first, I want to say, 10 pages. And in those
Mm,
pages, I talk about English being my second language. Even though I was born in the United States, I come from an immigrant single mom who had me at age 15 or 16, and my grandmother who only spoke Spanish. So I talk about that, and then we moved to Wyoming. My mother married a military Air Force officer. We moved to Wyoming, and now I can't speak English. And when I do start learning English, I have a thick accent, and the kids were
mm,
just brutal. So there was that identity problem. I talk about the abuse. There was a lot of abuse when I was younger, physical, then it turned into emotional and verbal abuse. My mother and I have an amazing relationship today, right? The art of forgiveness is what has gotten us
mm.
through, and I love my mother very much. She was a kid who had a kid, is what it boiled down
Right.
to. And but those things impact you in your adulthood, right? They shape how you look and
Yeah.
trust people. So there was that, and then I had cancer twice. I battled cancer
Mm,
twice before I was 20, and then I got in a lot of trouble. And nothing. I did not a felon, nothing crazy, but I got put in jail for a year, just for hanging out with the wrong people and doing stupid things. And while that happened, my parents went through a horrible divorce, and so that's how I started life. And I never, ever talked about that with anyone, never
mm,
shared any of those things with a soul. I started out my career in DC in politics, running trade organizations, nonprofits, lobbying for social issues, small business issues. And I navigated a career that way, went into corporate, and then from there just, got to where I got to. And so then this happened, and that corporate Randy died, or it died. And what I tried to do was continue corporate Randy in this now
mm,
new life, and it was a mix match there. There was, or a mismatch. It just wasn't working. And so for me to do what I told my friend that day, which was to inspire people, I had to let corporate Randy, or at least begin the death process of corporate Randy, and bring back the person that navigated his career in life, back to life, and tell those stories, and not to relive it, but hopefully to
mm,
inspire people. And so I had to go back into my soul here and really figure out what do I want to share with people, and how am I going to do this. And so that's what transformed in me, in the last year and a half or so, to work on this
mm.
project.
Yeah, that's that's a huge leap. It's overcoming adversity, overcoming, stuck beliefs. Yeah, that's, and you're right, because the corporate individual puts up the mask that people expect you to be, the individual that you want to be in public, the one that you present to the world, that your success and your labels and your titles. and they don't see the other, but people learn by stories. So it's wonderful that
Right.
you realize that. And that's where people will connect with you. There's a beautiful saying by Rumi, and it goes, who you seek is seeking you, because your stories are what connect those other individuals to you because they see themselves in your story. So that was meant to be, actually. So,
Yeah.
well, I know it's quite a transition, and I feel like you're still going through it, but you found your path, and that's the greatest gift of all. So, you authored a book. Now, this, I'm just amazed at what you've done in 16 months. You have authored a book, you have created a workbook, a transformation tool, and a broader ecosystem, in all in under 16 months. So,
Yeah.
for that, congratulations. That's
Thank you.
fantastic. So, what's the difference between surviving your life and stepping into your purpose?
Surviving your life, you you become the person. Surviving your life is stepping outside of your true self and being somebody you're just not. And the person who lives with purpose is stepping back into their selves and their soul, and understanding and appreciating that to move forward. It's not reliving the past. It's taking that and moving forward to, for me personally, to inspire other people. And so, there's been a lot of stepping in and stepping out. And to your point earlier, yes, I am still, the transformation never stops, ever. You're always, it's something different will always happen, and you have to be agile enough to be ready to manage that new thing that presents itself. And you either get stuck and don't do anything, or you look at that as the opportunity to continue moving you toward living your purpose, toward getting to where you want to get to. And that was the premise of what came out of all this. Is, when I set out to inspire people, and I found myself with a third, fourth manuscript going, this is it. What had happened was, I thought, well, how do I share this experience with people? And I'd taken so many notes that then I converted that into a workbook. So chapter by chapter. And I said, okay, here's how you think about mindset. Here's how you shift your mindset. Here's confidence. Here's how you build confidence. Here's how you think about that, right? We talk a lot about the imposter syndrome, and, how do you overcome those things, right? And so the workbook follows each chapter in the book. It's like, okay, you just read this. How do you now apply this into your life? How do you change the way you're thinking right now to the way you need to think to get to where you want to go, to become the person that in your heart, in your soul, you believe you are? So I created the workbook as the tool. Then what was interesting was, when I got laid off, I took a little inventory of how I did things at work. I was very disciplined. I followed a calendar from the second I woke up till night, right? I mean, if I needed to go somewhere, I would put in my calendar drive time. So I was very disciplined in how I managed my time. So I realized for my career, I had discipline, I had consistency, and I was very persistent. You don't achieve those levels of promotions if you're not persistent. You have to muddle through difficulty. And suddenly I found myself unable to do that for myself. I wasn't disciplined, I wasn't consistent, and I wasn't persistent. And so I put this little tool together. And so every day, my goal was to write for a couple of hours, do exercise and eat healthy, and meditate. I figured if I can do those three things, I will accomplish whatever it is I'm setting out to accomplish. Write a book was the first thing. And so I created a tool out of that. I took my corporate experience, I got Excel, I put some formulas together, because I'm the kind of person who needs immediate satisfaction. So with the whole concept of stacking your days, winning your days, I needed to see what a win would look like for me every day. So I put a spreadsheet together where I would put a 1, 2, or 3, and I would see a little graph go up every day. And so the graph would then show that I was meeting my goals. And the next day I would play against the previous day me if I didn't achieve those goals. And so it was almost, I created a little gamification process or a gamification tool for myself. And that is how I managed to stay focused, because I watched the graph go up for a
Mm.
year. And when that graph was at what pointed like at a 45-degree angle, was when I found myself completing a website, building a coaching tool. I had the stack shift tool completed, the workbook, the book, etc. I thought, wow, this actually works. So let me create it for other people.
Yeah, it's celebrating the small wins all along the way and being able to
Right.
visualize it and actually gauge it, especially when your mind works that way. You know, it's something that it shows progress, but also it gives you a goal to aim for, something to aim for. Like they always say, you need to have a path. And for me, that feels like, you look at this on a daily basis and it becomes your map, so to speak. And the
Yeah.
map is going in the right direction.
Yeah, it becomes your map. I think, we live in a world today where information comes at us so fast, and,
Mm.
it's just, we need everything now. And it applies to living your purpose, becoming that person you want to become. We don't, after, you'll get on a diet and you'll do it for a week or two, but you don't see the results that you want. You don't see the
Mm.
incremental results, because we want that big result. And so we give up, and we give up on ourselves. And I saw myself doing that a lot of times.
Mm.
And so I needed to create a tool that would show me the incremental wins, and to the point where then I started kind of gamifying against my previous day self.
Mm.
And that's what helped me, because I'm obsessed with this concept of stack your days, win your moment. How is that this moment better and stronger than the last moment, right? And that's the art of transformation. It changes at every moment.
Right.
And so how do we make it better toward where we want to go?
Yeah, I love that. I always say life is a practice. And to me, that is the practice. It's like, think of it in a sports analogy. They practice consistently every day to get better at what they do in order to master it. And that's exactly what we do. Like you said, your tool provides that. It's a practice. So where did you land today on your practice? Because like you
Right.
said at the beginning, we're always transforming. Always. If we're learning, if we don't transform, if we're not learning, we're not growing. If we remain in that bubble, where we stay safe and we do the same thing over and over and over again, as Dr. Joe Dispenza says, nothing ever changes. But when you grow, things change. And that is the practice of life. I mean, it's like, yeah, it really is
It,
something that you said. Yeah, we're always growing.
we're always growing, and something that I talk about a lot, and I wrote about it in the book, is jump into your discomfort zone. I have
Mm.
not been more uncomfortable in my life than I have the last 2.5 2 years. Uh, and what's interesting, but what I've learned about that is, I've always said, jump into your discomfort zone, right? Get out of your comfort zone. But what's interesting about that is, you'll jump into your discomfort zone, but if you're really progressing, if you're moving forward, if you're transforming, that discomfort zone then becomes a comfort zone. And then you have to jump out of that into a discomfort zone. And so that's growth. That's the art of
Mhm.
transformation, because you're changing, and you're agile within those discomfort zones. And so that's what I try to convey through my personal story and my career. It's like, look, yeah, 2.5 promotion every 2 to 2.5 years for 20 years, from a consultant to a chief officer at a major global brand meant that I did things that were so uncomfortable coming from what I believe was a handicap early in life. And so that's what it's all about, right? It's you gotta go after it, as difficult and complex and scary as it is.
Yes, absolutely. Tune the machine, tune the energy so that you have it to move that needle. Oh, I love it. Thank you. That was
Continually,
pure.
continually.
Yeah, always. Well, thank you for that. Well, self trust. Now, your framework challenges people to bet on themselves. Why do you think self trust is so rare, and how do we teach people to build it?
Yeah. Self-trust is one of the most difficult things I've navigated through. And it is a fascinating thing because I started out life the way I mentioned to you at the beginning. Um, and I went into a world in politics in Washington. And my first project, believe it or not, so I spent the year in jail and I got out, and then I graduated college, and my first job was working for a nonprofit association. And their first project was my first project was helping with a conference in Washington. And the very first project I was given was to work with the Secret Service to bring Bill Clinton to speak at the National Press Club during, I think, his second term. And I saw Bill Clinton speak, and it changed everything for me. I said, this is the world I want to be in. This is what I want to do for the rest of my life. I want to be in politics and navigate this world. And so I would go into a lot of I would go to a lot of fundraisers, political action committee meetings. I was part of the tons of events, and I would walk into those rooms and I would sweat, and I was not confident with myself, and I wasn't sure because looking back, I was suffering from some level of the imposter syndrome. Here's this guy who was in jail not too long ago, had cancer, divorcee, abuse. I don't belong here. And so I didn't, when you're in a position of an insecurity like that, you don't trust yourself. You don't trust what you say. You don't trust in the things you do. And so there's a lot that's working against you. Um, I I'm going to go back to a story in fifth grade that will kind of give us a full story here of where I'm trying to go with this. When I was learning English, I would lose every spelling bee in fifth grade, and I was the first one out. And I remember my teacher, Mrs. Jackson, who I still remember today, keeping me after school, and she gave me the entire list for the year of words that we needed to spell, and she sent me home and said, memorize these words. Didn't know what they meant, but I memorized every word. And within weeks, I started winning the spelling bees. And I had a horrible accent. I couldn't comprehend a lot of things still. And I remember that feeling of winning because I tried really hard. And so that moment is what helped me navigate my life coming from the things that I came from. And so when I was in those rooms where I was very insecure, I would remember that moment and say, okay, you need to go back and study the policies of this particular congressman or legislator so that you can talk about it. And so I started to read a lot during those years in my 20s, a lot of policy. I'm very into geopolitics, policy. That's why I love that stuff. And that helped me navigate those rooms and start building a little confidence in how I would talk to people. And so I started to trust myself and how I navigated life in rooms and in communities and in organizations. And then I came to CVS Health, and that was a whole new environment. And so when I got there, again, no trust, insecure. I didn't know this world. But then I started to kind of follow the same path and the same rules of engagement for myself. Learning the corporate environment, learning how to talk, how to speak the corporate speak, how to talk business, how to understand the business. And so that's how I started to navigate my life through that environment. And then I started building trust again. I got laid off.
Mhm.
And it's like, oh my gosh, I don't know how to navigate this world. I'm 54. What do I do? I didn't know how to podcast. I didn't know publishers. Like I mentioned earlier, I didn't know any of that stuff. Today, I've got a little podcast going that actually has followers, and people enjoy the stories that people I interview. I wrote a book. I'm working on a second book. I'm coaching. I'm now consulting with businesses. So I'm doing things that I never imagined 2 years ago I could do. And so now I'm beginning to build trust in myself again. So it's an ongoing thing. It's a transformative process.
Right. So, would you say then to help build self trust is to garner knowledge in the areas that you're stepping into? Because you said that you went back when you were in fifth grade and you learned and you memorized those words. Because, yes, it is difficult to, well, not difficult, it's a challenge. Because I don't like to use that word. I think words have a lot of impact in our life. So it's a challenge to have self trust, especially when you said you have memories of the past or you've got old beliefs. So in one of the you said that you learned. So one of the processes in gaining or building self trust would be to get knowledge in whatever it is that you're trying to bring forth or speak about, that sort of thing.
Absolutely. It's knowledge, it's understanding the people around you. Look, we live in a world today also where social media is just battering ourself, how we think about ourselves. And so we don't trust ourselves because we think that there are people out there who are better than us. And so we have a lot of doubt amongst ourselves, right? So the way to overcome that is to go and
Mm-hmm.
learn and do it, be repetitive, the consistency, right? You've got to have the discipline and the consistency, and then break through that noise, be persistent, right? And that's how you begin to build that self-trust, through knowledge and the experiences. And that's how I've done it in the
Mm-hmm.
last couple of years. It's not easy. It's still not easy. I'm you know what do they call it? It's happening in real time for me.
Right, right. But there again in lies your strength to go for the uncomfortable. You always said that you challenge yourself, that you always move outside your comfort zone. And so, as uncomfortable as that is, it seems like you've done it for many, many years, and your uncomfort zone is becoming your comfort zone, if that makes sense.
It is. It is. And I go back to my childhood, Jane. I was in some very uncomfortable situations as a kid.
Mm,
It's just, I mean, I go back. I'll just highlight the time I was sick in the hospital with cancer the second time, and laying in a bed, looking out the window at a parking lot with tubes, feeding
mm,
tubes, thinking, oh my gosh, what's going to happen in the future? Like what's going on here? And I'm 19, 20 years old. So that was very uncomfortable. And so the next day was the next day. And then a couple of days later, the tubes came out. And then a few days later, I'm walking. And then a few days later, I'm home. And so every moment is a moment toward progress. And so
mm,
and you learn about your condition, and you learn how to take care of yourself, and you learn about these things. And those things help you navigate the complexity of the moment. And that's just how I've always learned to work through that, right? With my mom, we had a tough childhood, but how do we navigate and move forward today? Through forgiveness. It's over. It
mm.
happened. We move on. I've learned a lot, and she has, and I love my mother greatly. So that's how I navigate the world in that way. So difficulty, sure. Laid off, horrible. I mean, trust me, it was horrible, but you just figure it out.
Yeah, you figure it out, and when you're young, you bounce back. because I can associate. My mother was from Guerrero, Acapulco. So
Okay,
yeah, my dad Canadian, my mom Mexican. So that's another story for another time. But yeah, I certainly I can relate to a lot of what you're saying. But I love what you said. You said every moment is a moment towards progress, and just keep
that's
that
right.
as a mantra in your mind. And every moment is a moment towards progress. There is one quote that I'd love to share here, because you talked about, there's so much noise out there with the internet now and social media. Teddy Roosevelt said way back when, comparison is the thief of joy. And that just
Yes.
hits home. That is so relevant to today's world. So just remember that.
Extremely relevant. Extremely
Yeah.
relevant. We are
Comparison is the thief.
constantly
Yeah.
comparing ourselves to that other person. And what's amazing about that is that we see someone on social media, and that's who we want to be. That's who we want to become. And and so it's a false path that we somehow get in our heads, and we don't achieve it because we can't achieve what we're seeing, and most of the time it's not real.
Right.
And so you've got to trust in yourself and in your path, and trust in that person that you want to become, right? So, and I this other quote I say a lot, and I've heard this before too, is, you know, find that path, and get to that place where your future self is going to thank you, your past
Mm.
self, for getting there. Go meet that future you. Come together. And that's how I think about it. I'm chasing my future me so they can get together and look back and go, wow, what a journey.
Yeah. I love it. Perfect. Well, thank you for that. That's so insightful and so inspiring. Now, you talk about disarming the inner thief. You speak about the thief in your mind that steals purpose. How does your program disarm the inner thief within us?
Yeah, the inner thief is everything we've been led to believe about everything around us. We talked about identity in the corporate environment. Everything I did was for the goal of a major corporation, to reach that goal.
Mm.
And it was, I look at those moments. I look at the noise that we just talked about. I look at the exhaustion that I have sometimes. I look at social media and go, oh my gosh, they're already doing that. What am I trying to do? Those are the thieves that get into our mind to take away our purpose, who we are. And so what I coach people through is, let's work through those thieves. Let's get through the neighborhood. Let's navigate our process through this very difficult neighborhood, looking at yourself, trusting yourself, finding that resilience in yourself, finding that grit that you think you don't have. We all have grit. Oh my God, we all have grit. We just have to find it and trust in ourselves that we can navigate life with it. And so I sit with people and help them navigate that process, whether it's losing weight. I've had a couple of people who, Randy, I'm all over the place. I've got, lawyers have reached out to me saying, I'm all over the place. I want to do so much, and this is my goal in life. I don't know how to get there. And I'm just, what should I think about first? And we sit down and start navigating and put a program together. It's not the exact same thing for everyone, but what we all have in common is we all know that we can be something much greater than what we are today. And the one thing I lead with is, don't come to the end of your day with regret. Come to the end of your day
Mm.
with, whew, I gave it everything I had.
Right. I love that. I gave it everything I had. And you're right. It's becoming who you were meant to be before everyone told you who you were supposed to be. That's
That's
really
right.
what it
There's
is.
a woman that I found on Facebook. She shows up a lot because we're connect or not Facebook, LinkedIn. she shows up a lot because we're connected through business, and she worked for she was a senior director at a big healthcare company in Boston. And then I saw her a few years ago start showing up on Instagram, playing a guitar and singing. And I thought, wow, she's an executive at a healthcare company, but she's at this little divey bar, singing and, singing some folk songs and whatnot. I thought, that is so cool. And that was about 2 years ago. About 2 weeks, a week ago, 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, I saw a post from her that said, I stopped playing music when I went into my career. And I thought about it every single day. And a few years ago, I picked up my guitar and started playing again. And now I play at local bars and I'm in the music scene, and I couldn't be happier. And she goes on and writes a lot more about that experience. And my thing is, if there's something you love, because I made that mistake. I wish I would have been writing while I was working, and I didn't. It was part of my New Year's resolutions to write a chapter of whatever I was going to write, but I never did it because work got in the way. And that's my regret that I live with. But I'm fixing it today. But if you're listening and you have something that you care about and you're passionate about and you can share with the world, pick it up, make it happen. And that's how we navigate.
Yeah, that's how we become who we're supposed to be.
That's
Absolutely.
what we
Yeah.
become. Yeah.
Yeah, because the naysayers will always be there, but you just have to learn to follow your path and know that, that your inner voice has to be louder and stronger than the naysayers, because that is what the world is looking for. It's
Right.
whatever it is supposed to be there, and I can feel your passion in this now as well, so it's really come full circle. So thank you for that. Well, your project isn't just a personal system, Randy, it's also a cultural philosophy. So, if every workplace adopted your transformation model, what would change first?
So what I believe strongly is that we are always promoting showing up to work as your authentic whole self. But
Mhm.
there's an inner self, the person that can contribute ideas, the person who can speak up, the person who has particular skills. It might be coaching, it might be music, and there might be an opportunity to create an environment within your organization where you bring music to bring people together, to get them to work on projects together and collaborate. Who knows, right? But what I've learned is that we don't train people enough within corporate environments to find their purpose and be able to align their purpose to the organization's purpose. Instead, everything that comes to the table regarding training is vision, mission, values of the company, and you have to breathe and live that. And we don't give people the opportunity for that. And so what happens is those people that get laid off or have to take early retirement or for whatever reason, they get put out into the world not knowing how to navigate themselves because they don't know their identity. They've left their identity with the corporate culture. And so that's where I am confident that my program can help people within organizations is prepare them for this moment, or at least give them the confidence to say, you know what, I do have a purpose in my life, and let me go explore that and see how I can bring that into my work environment. So
Yes, that's wonderful that that's available, to individuals. But wouldn't it be awesome if corporations had within them programs, workshops where individuals could explore who they some of their passions. For example, have a music workshop, have a writing workshop, have a
yeah,
dance workshop that is part of your, let's say, once a week. You, instead of, just hanging out for your break, you can go and take the workshop. and see if that's something you want to explore and see how you can cultivate that, because then you're also feeding the souls of your employees instead of making them robots, because really it's almost like they want you to do the job, like you said, become part of the culture that they have instilled, becomes part of the purpose that they want as a corporation, which I understand there has to be direction.
Sure.
But they don't give the individual. The company would everybody would recommend going and working for that company, because you not only work for the company, but they get you to explore who you are and get you to,
Right.
and maybe that skill then becomes useful in the corporation, because all of those require creativity and thinking outside the box. And let's be honest, knowledge is not the what it used to be. They don't pay for knowledge anymore. We can get that at a click of a button. Chat GPT, my God, there's so many that are out there that'll get you whatever knowledge you need. It's all about critical thinking. It's all about thinking outside the box. It's all about creativity. How can we look at this in a different way? But I know they get very rooted. The upper echelon gets very, very rooted in their old ways. And I don't know. I somehow, unfortunately, think it's going to take decades to move those people onward and get the new blood in there.
Yeah, I agree. It's corporate culture is very stuck in ensuring that you are driving toward those goals. And but the other thing too, people are changing.
Yeah.
The workforce is changing, needs are changing. I've been doing a lot of work on AI. I've been doing cultural presentations, and I'm been doing one recently on how AI and culture come together and the challenges there.
Mm-hmm.
And if you take some of the AI interviews, right, they're using AI for recruiting and interviewing. It will look at your skills, but it won't peel or dig into whether this person fits the culture, or what if the company actually has what this person is looking for in that culture. It only assesses skills and school and background. And so, we're even at the beginning, even at the start of somebody's career or in that role, they're assessing totally the wrong thing.
Right. That's regressing because they don't feel your energy. They don't
That's
feel who
exactly
you
right.
are. You walk into a room and you can be magnetic if you have that energy. You walk, like I just spoke to my niece this morning and she got on the phone. Oh, hi, how are you? And I was like, oh my gosh, I feel so great already. I'm speaking to you because she has this incredible energy. But that's not going to translate on an AI
No.
inquiry. They don't feel your energy. They don't feel your personality. They don't see or the opposite. You could come in like a slug and you're just like, I don't know. I just want the job, but they're not going to see or feel that when they fill out a questionnaire on the computer. So yeah, it's that's the regressing. That's terrible. I had no idea. Oh my gosh. Not a good path to be following. Just in saving time, it's going to cost them a long. That's going to cost them. Yeah,
Yeah, time and
for sure.
money, and
Yeah,
it's going to cost a lot. It's going
yeah.
back to the drawing board in some cases.
Oh, absolutely. And the young people today, like you said, that there's a different culture out there. They don't care if they change jobs 10 times in 10 years. In my day, in your day, that was frowned upon. If you went for an interview and they saw you'd already changed job twice, I go, okay, what's wrong with you? Why aren't you consistent in your job search or your job position? But today, the kids want something that has purpose. They are digging deeper into what they want and what they feel. So yeah, good luck with the AI
And
interviews
or
because
yeah, and
Mhm.
organizations are really struggling with that, with this newer generation that's coming into the workforce, because my generation was, yeah, it's 5 o'clock. Let me go home, eat, work out, and then I'm going to continue working. Toward the end of my time in corporate, the younger generation would say, I'm done. It's 5 o'clock. I'm going home. I'm going home. I'm going to go play sports with my friends. I'm going to bed. I've been watching this show on Netflix. I was just like, that's it. I wanted to go work. I'm like, oh no, I've got to keep working. I've got more to do. And then I would continue the next day. So
Yeah.
there's a lot changing in the workforce. And I think that's where, the work that I'm doing would be valuable. This is how we should help people find their purpose within an organization, help people align who they are to that organization, because if the fit isn't there with purpose, then that's just not the right organization. Like if you're an employee, go find the place that's going to align to what you love and appreciate, because you will do a great job and be happy every day versus going into work and being miserable because you're doing something you have to do to pay the bills. The world is changing.
Yes, for the better in that way. Absolutely.
That's
I
right.
agree with you 100%. Well, what is one truth, Randy, about your journey that would shock listeners?
I mean, I think I've said it. it's, I
Okay.
think it's, yeah, I think it's just my early life. I mean, look, right now in this moment, I think it would be that I'm still in it. It's still, I'm still going through it. Sure, in 16 months, I built these things and I got there, and people around me and people I promoted my work to were very excited. But then me personally was, oh, what next? What do I do next?
Mm.
And you have to figure that out. And I have been, and it's been great. And so now I'm taking kind of things to the next level and revamping a few things, and it's exciting and fun. But you know, my personal journey, my career got me here, but I'm still in it. And I think we're
Mm.
all always still in it. And I don't want anybody to think that, oh my gosh, you were laid off and you did all these things. That's great. Congratulations, you made it. There's no I made it for a long time. It's work in progress. And so I'm here with 2 years of experience in this, 21 years of a corporate experience, 55 years of personal challenges. And what I have is a message that says, hey, keep going. You will find your purpose. But have I gotten to where I want to get in this new transformation? No. Did I incorporate? Yes. So it's just that's the message. It's ongoing.
Yeah, it's okay to continue growing. It's really, that's what they
Absolutely.
say. I really understand now why they say life is a journey. It's not a destination. It's a journey because continually it continues on always. Once you figure there's a destination, that's the end. You just
Right.
that's it. I've reached it. I'm done. Okay. Then you ask that of the universe and it will grant you your wish. I'm a true
That's right.
believer in that for sure.
That's right.
But so always it's a journey, always. Well, tell us a little bit, Randy, about your work, what you're working on, speaking of the journey, namely your adaptive transformative cultures
Yeah.
and the personal novel inspired by the journey of your daughter titled When the Flower Dies.
Yeah. Yeah. That's so let me start with that. So when I was in jail, one of the programs, and this I was 21 years old, 22, I think it was. It was after I got sick, but I was able to go to work because it wasn't serious. So I was in a place where a halfway house where I could go to work, and school was my other program. So I was able to go to college. Uh, and one of the classes I took, because I would sit there at night looking into the air or to the bunk above me, going, how did I get myself here? This isn't me. This is not you, Randy. And so one of the classes they offered was Man's Search for Meaning, based on Eli Wiesel's book. And I read a book there by Herman Hesse called Narcissus and Goldman. And the gist was, young boy's father drops him off at a boarding school. His mother had passed away. The father blamed the mother for all the problems. And the boy wanted to finally leave the boarding school and go find a mother figure for the rest of his life. And he journeyed through his life into his 50s and had all these wild experiences in life. And I remember reading that thinking, that's exactly how I want to live my life. So I made the decision that I would not get married and I would not have children. I didn't want a family. I just wanted to focus on my career. So I I lived like that, and then I had a daughter. I moved up to New England, to Rhode Island, and I had a little girl. Didn't want a little girl. Wasn't prepared. Nothing. Just it wasn't. I'll be brutally honest. I felt nothing at the time except fear. Part of it was I don't want her to be get sick the way I did, thinking DNA and all the number of things that could go wrong. And so what happened for the next 18 years was a total transformation. I went from this single corporate, play hard, work hard guy to this loving father who was accountable, who felt completely in love with his daughter. Uh, and we have an amazing relationship. And when I wrote The Art of Transformation, I was doing everything I could to finish that book and have it published before she went off to college last year. I had the manuscript finished, but I didn't have the book finished because I wanted it to be her guide to navigate life. And
Mm,
so the book, When the Flower Dies, is about that experience of
mm,
how someone like me uh, could could transform in 18 years and learn about life from a little innocent young woman that I wanted no part of, not because I didn't want a part of it. It's just that was not the life I had set for myself. And that is what the book is about. It's the story of how that happened. And
mm,
so that's the personal project I'm working on. The culture work is very interesting because how things transform. If you're starting a business and you've got a plan and you think it's set like this and this is what you're going to get to, I promise you it will evolve in the process many times. So I did a lot of work in my career on culture and transformation and change management, and really good work. And was part of some huge initiatives with these companies and led a lot of them. And when I left corporate 2 years ago, I mentioned I wrote that manuscript, and I just thought, you know what, I don't feel comfortable with this. A few months ago, I was asked to present to a group of executives who were in from Ireland on to step in for someone and talk about culture. And so
mm,
I went back and looked at all my work and my notes, and I thought, we're we should be thinking about culture a little bit differently. And I created this whole model called the culture, the operating system, and I presented it. I'm like, let me test this out a little bit and see if what these guys think about this. And it was a hit. It was great. And so I was invited to go back and speak to a group of more executives, and now I'm beginning to speak on the topic of culture and AI, and how AI is going to impact culture and how culture is going to impact AI, and how to create a culture that will work with AI tools. And so that's the work that I'm beginning to
mm.
do on a more professional side. And it's fun. I'm really enjoying it because it's forcing me to do research, which is what I love to do. Uh, but it's a topic that no one's really digging into or talking about, how culture and AI are going to work together.
Right. Yes, that's so valuable. Oh my gosh. And it's spot on for what we need today. As we've
Right,
said in the previous conversations about culture and how not only does AI affect it, but the generation that's
right,
now getting to be inside the corporate world, because you've got two entities that are affecting it. So yeah, you're right. And I haven't seen anything so far addressing that particular aspect of business. So that sounds perfect, right up your alley. And that other story
Yeah,
about your daughter is just, it's interesting because I saw that it was based in fear. Like you said that you didn't want a child because you thought that maybe, they would inherit some of the sickness and so on and so forth. So yeah, what a beautiful gift that she is to your life, and will continue to be. Yep. So you'll be a
yeah.
granddad sometime.
I
You'll
will be
have
a
more
granddad
children.
sometime. It is. Looking back, it was an amazing transformation for me in that experience because, I, mentioned early life, but between those, my early 20s and working in Washington and being in the corporate environment and having all the things that I had, I lived it up. I had a fun life. Let me just, put it that way. It was just I had a grand old time in life. Uh, and that little girl grounded me to see life
Mm,
very different, to experience relationships very different, to see and understand the innocence of a little girl, of a woman differently. And so I'm very thankful to her for that, for giving me that
mm,
and
yeah,
helping me to a large extent become a dad.
yeah. It's part of your journey. It's meant to
That's right.
be. They always say there are no coincidences.
There are
So it was
no
put,
coincidences.
no, it's put there for a reason, and the reason
Hmm.
is beautiful. So yeah, congratulations to you for that. Well, what is the hardest truth, Randy, about transformation that most people avoid?
The hardest truth, I think we even touched on this a little bit earlier. It takes time. It takes
Mm,
time. It doesn't happen overnight. Transformation. I mean, look, tomorrow morning, anybody who's listening will wake up and listen to this and hopefully get something out of it and will feel something change inside them. That's transformation. That's the beginning
mm,
of something. But that beginning has a process and you have to embrace the process.
mm,
And if you can't embrace the process, then transformation to become who you want to become is not for you. But you have to ask yourself, do you want to live with regret? Or do you want to one day say, you know what, I gave it everything I could?
right. Absolutely. Well, if there was someone here who's feeling lost right now and they wanted to know what would be the first move they should make, what would you recommend?
Make the commitment to yourself about what you want to do, what that goal is.
Mm,
Commitment is the first thing you need to do. You need to say it to yourself. You need to look at yourself in the mirror and make that commitment, uh, and then begin to explore. Because once you make that commitment, everything, the power of intention, everything begins to fall in place. You can't make the commitment and then forget about it tomorrow or a week because you're not seeing the results. Make the
uh-huh.
commitment, stick to it. Build the discipline, the consistency, and the persistence to muddle through.
Yes.
And call me, reach out to me, email me, and we'll work through it because it's not easy. It's not easy.
Yeah.
Commitment is the first step, though.
Yeah. Well, thank you for that. Yes. And you're not alone. There's so much and so many
Mm-mm.
people shifting these days. It's actually pretty amazing. There, so many changes that are going on in the world. And there's good stuff happening besides the chaos and the static, as I call it. There is good
Yeah.
stuff happening. So, yeah, for sure. Well, tell our audience, Randy, how best to connect with you and to purchase your book.
Yes. So if you go on www.randyrmartinez.com, there is a page there where you can link to Amazon and purchase the book, or you can just go straight to Amazon and purchase the book. The tools, the Stack Shift tool and the workbook. You can purchase those and download them on the website. And if you're interested in connecting and exploring more of how we can work together, you can send me a message through my website, and my email is on there. But yeah, that's I'm here to hopefully inspire folks and spend time with people to find that path toward their purpose. And so please visit my website.
I believe that that is happening. And this is your path. So it's exciting. It's exciting to speak with you
It
now.
is.
I'd love to speak with you a year from now and see where you're at. So when that next book
Okay.
comes out, don't hesitate to reach out.
I
So I
will
have
not.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, because we're here on the Epic Vision Zone, I have one last question. If your life were an epic story, which I believe it is, what would the title be?
Oh, geez. What would the title be? I would say, I think the title would be I Didn't Regret Anything.
Mm, perfect. Yes, I love
And
that.
I say that because I as we were talking, I thought of this moment that when I said to you, I always used to put my New Year's resolutions that I would write a chapter of a book, and every year at the end of every year I would have regret, and I would say to myself, I want to leave something for the world, for my daughter, for people, and if anything happened tomorrow, I think it's fair enough to say that, hey, I gave it everything I had in the time that I had to, and so I don't have regrets. 2 years ago, I think I would have had regrets.
Right. Well, it's a new beginning. So that's
That's right.
wonderful. Yeah,
That's right.
absolutely. Well, thank you again, Randy, for reminding us that your transformation isn't about fixing yourself. It's about remembering who you were before the world told you who to be. And once again, for information and to connect with Randy, go to the Epic Vision Zone bio pages where you will find all of his direct contact information. And if today's conversation sparked your interest, be sure to follow and subscribe to my YouTube channel, Epic Vision Zone, and tag someone who loves epic conversations. Follow me on Instagram at Jane Applegath and look me up at janeapplegath.com. Sending you much love and gratitude. For until next time, stay visionary, lead with love, and stay epic.